Hi folks, this is David Gewertz, the adoptive developer of Seamless Donations 4.0, and we are here today to do a customization using hooks demo. And the idea behind this is to show you how you can add and customize the internals of Seamless Donations without interrupting or changing the core of the code. A big part of Seamless Donations' new capability has been the ability to customize using hooks, so it's good for you guys to get a chance to understand a little bit about that and how it works. So let's talk first about why you would use hooks. And the key to this is because updates pummel your code and make it difficult to support and manage. So in other words, what happens is whenever an update comes out, it's going to take your code and overwrite it if you go ahead and modify the core code. In the WordPress core, you know that you never modify the WordPress core. That's what plugins and themes are for. Likewise, you never want to modify the Seamless Donations core. That's what hooks and filters and actions are for. So let me give you an example of what happens if you do modify the core. I mean, many of you are familiar with this, but it's a pretty easy demonstration to make. So let's go to, I have a training site here. Let's go to the site, look at the main page, go to the donation page. And in this case, as you can see, I'm using, wasn't sure what theme I'm using. I'm using this theme, which I believe is 2013. Let's just be sure of that just for kicks. Let's go to themes, 2014. Let's move it to 2015. There's no reason for that other than it's just a little bit easier to see what's going on. Okay, so here we are in 2015, and we're on a donation page, and you can see the donation page. This is what the plugin produces here. So if I were to go into the actual code of the plugin, let's go, that's in WP content and inside plugins and inside Seamless Donations, and let's say I went into the main code of the plugin and I opened it up. Let me close all this other stuff because there's just no need to keep it all open. Come back to it later. Okay. And that's actually a form, so I actually don't want that. I want the forms item here. Let's come in here and see where it says donation information. Let's just say I change that to my happy donor form, because that's what I wanted it to say and hard code inside the form. So now if I go in here, I have my happy donor form. But if we come back to, let's close that. If we come back here, we'll notice that there is an update waiting for the plugin, because we've been running Seamless Donations 4, but there's available 4.01. And so instead of 4.0, we want 4.01. So let's update the plugin. Okay, we've gone ahead and updated our plugin. Now all of a sudden, my happy donor form is gone because that file just got overwritten. And as you can see, there's changes here because my Dropbox is updating, so you can actually see that this all just came in right this minute. And if we go look at this forms document again, you can see that donation information is back again. So the gotcha with this is that, let me come back to this thing, updates, any kind of updates will pummel your code, and as a result, you're going to have to rehack all your code back in there over and over again. And it's not supported. You want to make sure it's supported, and you want to make sure that it builds on top of things. And the way WordPress dealt with this is by adding plugins and themes. It added the capability to extend WordPress. Well, Seamless Donations 4 and above adds the capability to extend Seamless Donations. And that's through the use of hooks, which are actions. That's something that does something, or filters, which takes in a value and changes it and outputs it. So a filter, for example, might take in input might be David and output might be David, and effectively changing the input to the output. Most Seamless Donations hooks are filters. So we're going to go in and we're actually going to build a demo with a couple of hooks and filters and add capability to Seamless Donations in this video. So that one of the next questions is going to be, where do you put your code? And a lot of folks will recommend that you put custom code for a given website in functions.php. I don't like that. I think you should create your own custom plugin. It's how I do it. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to turn on and off the plugin to see how the behavior changes. It's very easy to modify. It's not tied to your themes. So it's how I do it and what I recommend. So we're going to build a custom plugin. The easiest way to do that is to come over here, and I'm going to add a new folder, and this one's going to be called Seamless Custom. And I'm going to go into Text Wrangler. Oops, I'm going to go to Text Wrangler by typing it properly. Wrangler. And close this file and create a new file, text document, which I am going to call, let's get rid of this. I'm just going to put text randomly in there for the moment. And I'm going to save as, let's call this Seamless Custom. This is a PHP file, so we'll call it seamlesscustom.php. And I'm saving it on the desktop because it's just faster and easier for me to find this. Let's close this file. We're going to come into Seamless Custom. It's dropped that PHP file somewhere on my desktop. Here it is. Let's drag this in here. And now we have seamlesscustom.php. Now you'll notice if we come back to the training site and we do a refresh, that it doesn't show that plugin. That's because you need to put in a file header that defines what the plugin is. And I included the link to that in the video notes. But the file header basically has your URL name and the details of the plugins and that kind of stuff. So this page shows it all, but I'm going to just grab a sample, which is this one up here. And I'm going to put that into our new plugin. So let's come back over. This is now seamlesscustom.php. I'm going to open it up, get rid of that chunk that says text. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this Seamless Customizer. I'm going to give it a URL of my customizer, and give it a description. Incredibly slick way to extend seamless donations without having the core overwritten. Let's call it, let's be brave, let's call it version 1.0. Let's make the author you, the brilliant seamless donations user. Let's make your URL you brilliant one you. And text domain is really is how you deal with translations. You're probably not going to worry about that, but the easiest thing to simply do is go and give it the same name as your plugin, which is seamless-custom. That's the name of the PHP file. And in fact, let's make the plugin name Seamless Custom. That way everything matches. And then save the file. So now that we've done that, let's just take another quick look. You've got the plugin name, Seamless Custom, a URL, a quick description, version, let's call it version 1.0. Let's make the author something a little bit easier, like brilliant you. How's that? Just make it simple. The text domain, which you can generally ignore, the domain path, which is for the text domain. This is all translation stuff, which you could generally ignore as well. And we close that up. Now, if we come back here to our plugins, you will notice, if I refresh, that now we have two plugins. We not only have Seamless Donations, but we now have Seamless Custom. Now, it doesn't do anything except activate, because the only thing it's got in there is the plugin header. But even so, that's all there is to creating a plugin, is to create a header and then have it do something. And so that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to work on having it do something. So let's go back to our outline page, and let's add a filter. And what we're going to do, let me sort of explain the assignment here. We are going to create a custom plugin unique to this installation, which is called Seamless Custom. We did that. Then we're going to reorder the donation amount so the smallest comes first. So if we go to our donation page, you see that we have largest coming first. We're going to reorder it so the smallest comes first, and that's what we're going to do first. So, and this also relates to the form options here, where at the top is the largest and we want the smallest. So the easiest thing to do is to come in, this is the header page, so we don't need that anymore, is to come in here and create a filter, or actually to use a pre-existing filter. I've made a whole pile of filters for you guys. We're going to add a filter. So let's grab this code and drop that inside our piece of custom code. So we're going to make use of add filter. And what we want to do is we want to add a filter that takes the donations list and modifies it. Now, if you look, let me take you back to the web page here. All of the stuff that you'll want to find about how hooks work in Seamless Donations is on the main WordPress page. So if we go to the main WordPress page for the plugin, you can come down here and you'll see that there's developer resources. And here's a list of actions and filters. And there's a ton. There's front-end form filters, which we'll be using in a few minutes, hooks to change administration, all sorts of filters and things to modify change. But the one we're actually going to be working with is DGX Donate Giving Levels. And I'll show you how that works in a minute. But let's grab that name because that's going to be the hook we use. So we're going to trigger off of DGX Donate Giving Levels. And you can see where that is. Let's switch plugins here. So we're now back to Seamless Donations. And I believe that that is in here in DGX Donate. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So it starts with a built-in giving levels array. And as you can see, this number, 1,000, 500, 200, and so forth, corresponds directly to what we have here and what we have in the form options. So I'm just going to grab that array because it's convenient. Now, finding your way around here might take a little search. You might have to look for, go through your files and look for where that filter is located to see how it behaves, but this is just going to give you an idea how it works. And so I'm going to come back to custom over here, and I'm going to take my array. So this is the built-in giving levels array, and I'm going to kind of cheat out here, and instead of running some kind of fancy flip, I'm just going to rewrite it. So my giving levels equals an array that consists of 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500, and 1,000 in the reverse order. Take a sip of iced tea. Hang on a sec. And that is going to change the thing. But what we need is a function that is called. So when you add a filter, you have the filter. That's the thing that I watch for and check to see, did you define anything special for it? And a function that gets called when this filter is done. So let's put this inside a function. Let's make this function reorder giving levels and just pass it. In this case, we would pass it an array, except that we're doing it on our own, but we'll just call it array. And we're putting this inside it, and we're returning my giving levels. Don't forget the semicolon, and closing that. Bring this back over here for good coding style, and let's take this. This is the name of the function that gets added, and it goes in as a string. And in this case, you can read up on actions and filters and learn more about what priorities and arguments are and so forth. But for our purposes, we're just going to make it really simple. So it takes in it takes in an array that it pays no attention to. It reorders it and it returns giving levels. So we have here basically 5 lines of code, and I'm saving the file, coming back over here, and I'm hitting refresh, and nothing changes. Why is that? Go back to plugins. Let's activate our new plugin. Now it's activated. Now let's come back to our form options. And as you can see now, display levels has changed. In fact, if we go to the donation form, it was 1,000. If I hit refresh, it's now 50. And so very, very simply, I've already made a change to how this thing works. And, in fact, I could decide, all right, I want the 200 point there as well. Come back over here, and as you can see, it still works and activates, but it's flipped. And that's because what we've done is we've added this tiny little bit of code that changes the behavior of the seamless donation system. And it does it outside of the main code. So we didn't go in here and hack the main code. So if I do another update later, it's not going to change anything. What's going to happen is this thing applies filters. It says, if there's been a filter defined that's called DGX donate giving level, pass it an existing giving level and take out the giving level. So what it does then is it pulls this in order and changes it. And I could do things like, I could change up 50 to 51, and I could change up 100 to 101 if I really wanted to. And if you come back in here again, you'll see that actually you have to reset the page because now it doesn't know about it. So let's go to the form options page, reset, turn on 51, 101, save the giving levels, come back here and see now that you've managed and changed your giving levels however you want. So that becomes a really powerful tool. So if we look at our list of things that we wanted it to do, so we wanted to reorder the donation amount. Now let's say we want to set a default donation item that's not just the first item. This is tinkering in a completely different place. We look here and it sets the first item, but let's say, and I'm gonna normalize that just so that we don't make ourselves crazy. Let's go back to here. Let's go back to making that 50 and 100 just to prevent ongoing confusion. Let's refresh. 50 and 100. Nope, 50 and 100. You notice I'm doing this live. Let's refresh. And we might as well give it the full set. Save giving levels. Okay. And now when we come to the form, you can see the form is the way we would expect. But again, the first item is selected. So let's see if we can modify that first item. And that's actually in the forms system. And if we look at custom post type filters, what we're really going to be doing now is we're going to be coming up here to the front end form filters. And we're going to be modifying the donation section, which is the form array that manages the donations. If you look at the actual form, which that is not, that is the form, you can see that there is a donation section, attribute section, donor information, and so forth. Each of these are sections, and you can modify them. They've been kind of broken up that way to make it a little easier to do. So we'll come back here. Let's close that one. Let's come into the donations form, which is what controls the form itself. Let's open that up. And this is a very big file that's organized pretty clearly. And don't get too carried away with what's inside here. Just understand that it's pretty straightforward once you take it slowly and think it through. You just have to take it slowly and think it through. So the key to this is that there are these sections: a donation section, a tribute section, a donor section, a billing section, a PayPal section, and a submit section. What we want to do is we want to modify the donation section. And what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the donation section, seamless donation, get donation section, and you can see it's building an array. And these arrays are what control the forms. So remember, we modified donation information. That's actually an array item. And you could change the value of that array item in your form. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come in here and look at the different giving levels. And you'll see what happens is as it runs through the giving levels, it goes in and assigns them to the array. So it's a loop that assigns these giving levels to an array. And it also does it. Let's see, it assigns the giving levels. It says that's the giving level option. It sets the first one to this Hares class, which I'm not entirely sure why it does. I think that's to make sure that it's a oh yeah, it is. It's the class that lets it go horizontal. And then select here determines which index item is selected. So in other words, if index equals 0, it selects the element select is true. Now that again is going to sound very confusing, But what we're going to do is we're going to modify this array. We're going to go in and pound on this array in a way that's going to allow us to make a change. So the way this happens, and you notice that this array just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's just a ton of stuff in here. But check this out. Apply filters, seamless donation form donation section, and it takes in this array and it spits out this, or it takes in the array over here and it spits out the array over here. So all we have to do is hammer on the array. So that's what we're going to look at next, is how to hammer on that array. So let's first grab the filter. Let's go back to our custom thing. We're going to create a filter. This time it's called add filter. And we're going to hammer on the donation form section, and we're going to do another function. Let's call this one change selection. And we'll have a function that takes change selection. Now in this case, it's going to be very important to modify the array because the array is what controls everything. So let's go into our function. Let's call it change selection. Takes in an array, which is the main array that controls everything. Now, if you're curious about how the array is formatted, this is actually the forms engine that's driving all of this stuff. So all of these options in the array, cloak and type and value, are all defined in the forms engine. And in the codex, I've got a link. Let's see, it's actually probably the easiest thing to do is come back in here to the main plugin page. Let's take you back to the main plugin page for a second. Take you down to developer tools. This form engine has every single option that the form engine manages is defined in here, so you can understand what you're looking for. So for example, remember I mentioned select? We're going to come down to the form element list array, and let's come down to select. If defined regardless of value, it will enable that element. So we want to make sure that we've chosen the element we want to go for. So we're going to be really looking for this select element. That's really what we're going to try to do, is hammer that element in the right place, which means we want to turn off an element, which is the one that's already pre-selected, and turn on an element, which is the one that we're looking for. So it's going to take us a minute or two to find that item, so it's going to be a little bit of a hunt for what we're looking for. But if we come in here, we know that we have this donation section, which is an array. It has a set of elements which are called elements inside the array. So when we come into our thing, we're going to be dealing with something that is the array. And we're going to be dealing with a subset, which are the elements. Let's come back to our code for a second. So we know that it's inside of elements. And what we're doing is we're adding to this. We see that we have giving key is DGX donate giving level plus a giving key. Now it turns out that if you went into the debugger, you'd see that a little bit more clearly. But let's say the first thing we want to do is we want to turn off the index of 0 because we want to make sure that select is turned off. So what we want to do is we're going to look for DGX donate, and the index of 0 is the first one. So in our code, we've modified the first one to be 5. So we're going to change this to DGX donate giving level 5, put that inside a string, right? And select inside that. I believe that's what we want. An item. So it's got an array inside itself, and that array is select. And then we're going to want to make that false. Equals false. Return $array. Now there's a couple things that I can point out to you, and one of which is that there's a few debugging tools that might help this a little bit. First off, you can do the normal PHP debugging, but you can also dig in a little bit and play around with it a bit. But let's just see if we're right. Let's just see if this works. So let's go back to our list here, and let's say we want to make the 50 the one that's the default. Well, let's make the 100 the one that's the default. So let's change this. Let's copy this. Make the giving level of 100, make that equals true. Let's just see what we get. The whole thing could blow up because I'm doing this ad hoc, but let's just find out. Donation page, refresh, and lo and behold, there you go. See, the 100 is set to default. So as you can see, it's just a few lines of code. What we've done is we've gone into the array, we've found the right giving level, we've turned off the selection attribute. Then we've gone in and found the right giving level and turned on the selection attribute. So let's say we want that to be at the 500 mark. We just change that, come back in here, do a refresh. And as you can see, although the button is over here, you'll have to CSS style it, the 500 mark is turned on. So that's the second of our changes. And a lot of what we'll be doing in terms of doing these things. So let's take this and make that, I don't know, how about a pretty green, because we've done it. And we've done this one. Well, let's make that a pretty green. Now we've made sure that's not the first item, so we'll make that a pretty green. Now we're going to try doing something kind of crazy. We're going to try to give each of these things a name. So let's do a few things. Let's shrink down our number of giving levels. Let's just say that we want to make it pretty simple. Let's say we want to do, let's say we only want 3 giving levels. Okay, so let's say we want 100, 500, and 1,000. Okay, and we want to default the giving level in this case to 1,000, which is now at the far end. And we want to turn so now remember, if we've only got 3 giving levels, the first one isn't going to be 5 anymore. The first one is going to be 100. So we're going to turn those off. And we want to go back. This won't just refresh here. We have to come back into the form, do a refresh on the form, select the 3 giving levels, then come back to the donation page. And as you can see, we now have the 3 giving levels. Okay. But here's what's kind of interesting. Let's come back to our forms engine page, which there's a link to. I'll back it up and I'll show you where the link is. Link to right here, forms engine. And you'll notice that there is an array definition for the forms array, for the forms section array, and for the forms element array. And if you look here, we're working in the element array. So this becomes interesting because we have type and value and size and so forth, but we also have before. Before is unfiltered HTML placed before the rest of the element's HTML code. Ooh, wonder what we can do with that. What we could probably do is we could probably place some HTML before the element's HTML code. So let's come back in here. Now that we've done this, we've changed selection, but let's make this, instead of change selection, let's make this modify donation choices. And we'll come back in here, because we're doing more than just changing the selection now. So we've changed the selection, but we want to make something else happen too, don't we? We want to change the names of these things and give them a value. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab one of these just for convenience. And we want to change donation giving level here. But now what we want to do is we want to do something called before, because before puts some HTML before it. So let's say I want to make the before bold, and let's call the $100 giving level bronze. Oops. Okay. And let's do this again, except let's make the $500 level silver, that 500. Now let's come in here again. And let's make the $1,000 giving level gold. Okay. And there's a space after each one of those. Let's see what happens, shall we? Let's go back to our form. Form, refresh. Booyah! Bronze, silver, and gold. Now, obviously, you're going to have to do a little bit of CSS styling to move this stuff over a little bit and make it fit right. And you notice that gold is selected first, but here you have giving levels. And let's try something simple like throwing a non-breaking space in there just as a quick and dirty way to do this. I'll throw 2 in there just for kicks. And again, what you'd probably want to do is put this in a span or a div and style it appropriately. But for our quick and dirty purposes, there you go. Bronze, silver, gold. So you've gone ahead and changed the donation information and changed how it's put together and displayed, again, without ever touching the code. Now this is where it becomes interesting. Okay, so now you have this here, right? Let's go back to our plugins. Let's deactivate the custom plugin. Let's go back to your plugin page. Watch what happens. Boom. It starts at 1,000, it comes down, it goes back. But if you turn your plugin back on, activate, come back here, boom. So as you can see, you've completely changed the behavior of this, but you've done it externally to Seamless Donations by using the hooks. So we had one more assignment in here, and this was something that someone else did. So we've given them individual names, so let's make that nice and green. And that's that we want to change the payment code sent from PayPal from donations to click. Now here's what this is about. In some countries, you can't use donations. You have to use a payment. And I don't directly support that in here because it's kind of weird and complex to track all of that. But what we want to do is make it possible to be able to make that simple change to be able to work with it. So we'll come back into our code. This one is going to be, let's add another filter. This time, let's define the function first. Function change PayPal code. And again, it's going to get an array. It's going to return an array. Return an array. Oops. I'll make sure that's right. And we're going to add a filter, but we want to find the filter. Now, if this was in the donation section, let's go look at our code. Most likely, we want the PayPal section. So let's go and find ourselves our PayPal section. I know I'm digging through pretty quickly, but donor section, billing section, PayPal section. Okay, so we have a section, and again, we're setting up an array. Remember, we were setting up an array, and we're setting up an array with elements. But this time we want to change the command. Now it turns out that CMD is the command, is a special hidden array identifier that PayPal uses, but we would just want to change donations here to xclick. So again, but at this time we're changing value. So it's elements command value, and our hook is Seamless Donations form submit section. That doesn't seem right. Let's take a look. It's form submit section. Okay. Seamless Donations form submit section. So we're going to grab Seamless Donations form submit section. Come back in here. So we're going to add a filter. Add filter. And this time it's going to be change PayPal code. And then we're going to come in here, we're going to do another array. So we want to take $array. And we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go donation, let's call it command code. CMD code equals array elements. Whoops, let's put that inside a string. Elements. And let's go take a look again. I believe it was called command. Array elements command. Yep. So CMD inside a string, and then we're changing its value. But in this case, we're going to get the value. And the reason for this is I'm going to do a quick test. And I have a couple little hacky things, and these are very hacky, but they're very helpful in Seamless Donations that allows me to throw a quick variable up on screen to see what it means. And so that is Seamless Donations debug alert. And log will throw it into the browser log, but let's just use this. So we'll come in here, and we'll shoot this up there. Debug alert, and we want command code. So dollar command code and save. So what we should do when we come back, let's go back to our page. It's activated, so it should be when I refresh, we should see it say the command code. And there you go. So the page says donations. That's the existing command code. And I say OK, and doesn't have anything anymore, and it fills it out. So what we want to do now is we want to come back in here. We know that that's the value we want to hit, so we're going to say array element value equals, and I think we said we wanted to change it to xclick. Let's go back to, yeah, we wanted to make it underscore xclick, so let's come back into our code, make it underscore xclick, and let's, for kicks, let's take a look at our command code again. And let's run a refresh on this again. So let's go back to the donation page and do a refresh. Donations, that's the first one, that's what it was. Still donations, nothing. Ooh. Okay, so let's take a look and see why that didn't work right. Oh, because we didn't change the command code, we just sent the array. So we want to re-get that value. So we'll come back down here again. So here as you can see, we got the array value, and then we took the value of the array and we displayed an alert. Here we're setting the value of the array, right? Then we're taking the value of the array into command code, and now we're setting an alert, and then we're going to return. So let's do that, come back here, do another refresh. So it starts with donations, it ends with xclick, and we have a couple of blanks at the end, because as it refreshes. So you can see that we're taking that same array, but now it says xclick, and so that's all we need to do. I'll pull this out here. We don't need to check the command code anymore. All we really need to do, in fact, is hammer that xclick in. And return the array, and we've just changed the PayPal code. So as you can see, what we've done is we've made a variety of big changes. Let's go back into our codex and mark that as green as well, just so that we know we've done these. We've gone in and we've made a set of big changes. We've created a new plugin. We reordered the donation amount so the smallest comes first. We've set a default donation amount so that it's not just the first item. We've given each of the donations individual names, and we've changed the payment code. And we've done it in, what, 1338, that's 25 lines of code at most, and with spaces and everything else. So that's, and none of this will be overwritten. So if we overwrite seamless donations, this stuff will still work. In fact, let's do that the hard way. Okay, let's come in here just to really prove this is the case. Let me close these out. I want to save this. Yes, I want to save that. Save. Okay, let's do it the hard way. So just for kicks, let's deactivate both of these. Let's delete seamless donations. Just completely delete the file. It's the equivalent of overwriting it at the worst case. Let's add new. So we'll go in here and download seamless donations fresh. Install it. Activate it. So now we have seamless donations activated. If we come to the donation page, it's the page that we're used to seeing. Come back in here, activate our custom hooks plugin. Come back over here, do a refresh. And as you can see, it's all here, and it survived a deletion, it survived a fresh download from the site, it did all of that. So this is a pretty powerful capability, and I strongly encourage you to get used to adding hooks and using them. If there is not a hook somewhere in code that you need, let me know. I will be adding more and more hooks over time. But remember that there's a ton of filters, there's a ton of admin hooks. All of these things are now in Seamless Donations 4 and will give you the opportunity to do this. And the power that you get, the ability to use just a few lines of code, and let's go back to our few lines of code here. our seamless custom, I mean, all of this is just a very short number of lines of code, and we've added 3 functions. We've added an ability to reorder the levels, we've modified our donation choices and given them labels, and we've changed the PayPal code in just a tiny little bit of code. That's the power of hooks in seamless donations. Thank you very much. I want to see what you guys build. If you build anything interesting, let me know. You can go ahead and build extensions, and if you build anything that expands seamless donations in an interesting way, let us know. We'll let people know about it. And if you need custom filters, if there's something missing that you need to be able to grab access to and filter it, let me know that as well. My name is David Gewirtz, and have a great day.